This is Mary Ellen McKay, Chair of the Zoning Board, and this is the September 22nd, 2020 Zoning Board meeting. Board member, I will introduce the board members, and after they are introduced, they will say present to indicate that they are at the meeting. Zoning board meetings will be done this way until more typical meetings will be held at City Hall once it is deemed safe. The City of Nashua Zoning Board of Adjustment is continuing via video conferencing using the Zoom application. Due to COVID-19 coronavirus crisis and in accordance with Governor Sununu's emergency order and pursuant to the governor's executive order, boards are authorized to meet electronically until further notice. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to the meeting, which was authorized to meet electronically until further notice. However, in accordance with the emergency order, this is to confirm that we are allowing public audio access to the meeting be available by telephone, 978-990-5298, with additional access means by video or other electronic access. The meetings can be streamed through the city's website, https://www.nashuanh.gov/318/CTV on Nashua's community link and also on Channel 16 on Comcast. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be provided via Zoom. Links to each meeting will be contained in the agenda for each meeting. Real-time public comment can be addressed via video to the board utilizing Zoom virtual meeting software for remote access. Real-time public comments via audio will be addressed at the conclusion of the public hearing. This application will allow users to view the meeting and send a comment or question to the board utilizing the Zoom virtual meeting
16
software for remote access. The public is also encouraged to submit their comments via email to the Planning Department email, planningdepartment@nashuanh.gov, or by mail. Please make sure to include your name, address, and comments. This information must be received by 5 p.m. the day of the meeting. Letters should be addressed to the Planning Department, Post Office Box 2019, Nashua, New Hampshire 03061. Applicants, their representatives, and individuals required to appear before the board will appear remotely and are not required to be physically present. Applicants, their representatives, and individuals required to appear before the board may contact the Planning Department to arrange an alternative means of real-time participation if you are unable to use Zoom. Documentary exhibits and/or visual presentations must be submitted in advance of the meeting so that they may be displayed for remote public access viewing. The chair is in control of the meeting. The board will continue as reasonable as possible to follow the procedures as identified in the bylaws. The applicant will present their case, followed by questions by the board. We will allow for a rebuttal period as best as possible for persons wishing to speak in favor or with questions or opposition before the board deliberates and determines an outcome. Normally, the board utilizes a light timer. This will not be available, but the board will utilize a timer and will adhere to the timeframes of 15 minutes maximum for the applicant and then 5 minutes each for anyone wishing to speak in favor or opposition or with questions and concerns. The zoning board, the planning department, and city staff thanks you for your understanding and patience during this difficult time. Mr. Falk, would you call the roll, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. Mary Ellen McKay.
Present, and I am alone in the room.
Jack Courier.
I am present and alone in the home, my home.
JP Boucher.
Present, and there's nobody in the room with me.
Steve Lionel.
Present, and there's nobody in the room with me.
Stathia Boris.
I'm present and there's no one in the room with me.
Nick Kanakis.
I am present and alone.
Madam Chair, we received notification that Jay Mankera and Rob Shaw will not be in attendance tonight. And we do have a quorum.
Okay, then I'm going to proceed with the first case and read that into the record.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
you probably want to go through who's the permanent members and who you're going to have.
Oh,
vote.
thanks, JP. That's what I was doing. I was writing it down and then went right beyond it. Okay, the permanent members that are here this evening are Mr. Jack Courier, Mr. JP Boucher, Mr. Steve Lionel, and myself, Mary Ellen McKay. We will be voting in all of the cases, except in this first case, Mr. Lionel has recused himself. So I will be asking Mr. Nick Kanakis and Ms. Estafia Boras, who are the alternates, to sit in, and they will both be voting in this case. From that point forward, since there will only be 4 regular members, I will alternate between the alternates, and they will each vote in a case. Generally, it's the alternates will participate in all hearings and in all meetings, and the one who will be voting, or the 2 in this case who will be voting, vote. And the regular members, like I said, will be voting in each case. And now we will move to case number 1. Jeanette DuPont, owner, Catherine E. La Liberty, applicant, 4 Bates Drive, sheet 48, lot 216, requesting variance from Land Use Code section 190-192C to exceed maximum driveway width 24 feet permitted, 32 feet existing, 32 feet requested to replace existing driveway. This is in the RA zone, Ward 3, and this case was tabled from the 9/9/2020 meeting to the position of the first case on the agenda. Is there somebody here who can speak? Is the applicant here to present this case? Okay.
Yes.
Catherine, please state your name and address for the record, and then you have 15 minutes and the floor is yours.
Catherine La Liberty, 4 Bates Drive. Jeanette DuPont was my late mother. I am still waiting for probate to correct the deed in this time of things happening very slowly. Alderwoman Klee has asked to speak first.
Catherine will present the case, and Alderman Klee can speak when we ask for comments in support.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I just know I'm very nervous.
That's okay, honey. We don't bite. You're fine.
So when we bought the house in 1980, the driveway was only as wide as the garage. And when we lost the tree in front of the double gate, my then husband and I decided to expand the driveway so we wouldn't have to park one in front of the other. And it stayed that way until you see this very cracked, dried up driveway, until this project became the top of my list for 2020. The day it was supposed to be paved, Mr. Jennings came and told me there was a variance against the width. I had never heard of such a thing. I didn't even know paving companies needed permits. I was completely blindsided. So I reached out to Alderwoman Klee, who explained everything to me, was very patient with me, and I completely misunderstood. I misinterpreted. It was totally my mistake, and I take full responsibility for it. I was under the impression I could get the exact same driveway repaved. And I reached out to my paving company. They said they would do it. And I said I would file paperwork just to get it done and over with, because I could get so little done right now. So my frustration played a part in this also.
is that your testimony? Are you comfortable with that being the points you wish to make?
Yes.
Okay, and now I'm going to open this to the board to see if they have any questions for Miss LaLiberty. Okay, I saw Mr. Courier and Mr. Boucher go up simultaneously. Mr. Boucher.
Just a clarification, doing a little research, looking back, I can only go back to 2013. This driveway has been this width since what year?
The late 80s. My
Okay.
35-year-old was a toddler, so I'd say 87 or 88.
Okay, so since the late 80s. Okay, thank
Yes.
you. That's all I need to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Courier.
I just wanted to clarify if the picture that we were just shown on the screen that Kate had, was that previous or after it was paved?
Previous.
Okay, so the pavement there now is no wider than it was before.
Correct.
Before being like 1988 or something like that.
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Kate. Unmute, honey.
Trying. I just wanted to say that that was a Google drive-by from 2019.
Okay, thanks.
Are there any other questions for Miss LaLiberty? Okay, seeing none, I am going to close the public hearing and
Madam Chair?
yes. Oh, I have to do the
You
question.
haven't asked if anybody else wants to speak in favor.
Yeah, I know. I caught myself, JP.
All right.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak in favor of this application? I see your hand, Trish. If you just unmute yourself.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Yes, I wanted to speak on behalf of Ms. Liberty. When she first contacted me, she asked if we could do a grandfather in. I contacted the people that I felt needed to be done, and we found out no, there was no such thing as grandfathering in. Didn't matter how long it was, it needed to get a variance and so on. In my conversation with Ms. Liberty, I had spoken to her about that. There are a number of driveways that they probably don't have variances, including my own. When we bought our place, I'm sure my driveway is greater than 24 feet. And I spoke to my husband and said, when we repay, we have to go in and get a variance and so on. So it was an education process for me. And as I was talking to Ms. Liberty, I think I confused her. I think when I said that and said that there were so many going on and so on, and no one really goes looking, I think she thought that that meant that we could do this and then come in afterwards. I believe she was trying to hold down the price that was guaranteed up until that time. But again, between frustrations, between COVID and so on, it's no excuse. It's still a mistake is a mistake. But I would hope you would vote on it favorably. I mean, I have looked through many of the documents that you had relative to this, the email conversations and so on. And I can see that there are a number of driveways that are similar, not necessarily that came after the point after they've already and you have it has been like this for a long time. And again, I would hope that you will look favorably upon this driveway and do as sorry, excuse me for my stuttering. I'm thinking I have a Board of Aldermen meeting coming up. So, but again, just to be in favor of it, and I would. I think it's been this way for a long time. Changing drainage or anything else like that that's been in the neighborhood. So thank you so much for letting me speak.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak in favor of this application? Mr. Courier.
I just wanted to say, just for the written record, that was Patricia Klee that was speaking. I didn't get an address on that, but I didn't hear a name first, but I think we know who it is because it's video, but I didn't think there was an announcement.
For the record, I apologize. This is Alderman Patricia Clee, 9 Maywood Drive, here in Nashua.
All right, great, thanks.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone who has concerns or questions, objections to this application? Okay, I have one letter here in the packet dated August 27th, and I'm going to read it into the record. Hello, I received the notice of public hearing today regarding sheet 48, lot 216, variance from Land Use Code section 190-192C. I am unsure about the nature of this request, as it reads to me that the driveway next door would be widened by 8 feet, which would put it 8 feet into our yard past her current fence line, and as thus impact our ability to add on a future second garage stall. The notice reads to exceed maximum driveway width 24 feet permitted, 32 feet existing, 32 feet requested to replace existing driveway. I have attached 2 images showing what 8 additional feet from the edge of the driveway in question means and the adverse impact it has on our usable space. The blue case of the tape measure is at the 8-foot mark and is actually not set at the property line, but the edge of the existing pavement top edge. A 32-foot wide driveway seems excessive for such a tight space. As I work on the evening in question and am unsure I can get the evening off to be at the Zoom meeting, I would greatly appreciate having clarification of the exact reason and nature of this request. I would ask the applicant, but I haven't seen my neighbor in weeks. Thank you for your time and attention on this matter. Rebecca and Joseph Brown, 2 Bates Drive. Miss LaLiberty, can you speak to their concerns?
I'm guessing from that they think I'm going beyond where my driveway ends now onto their land. I don't think they understand that my current driveway is 32 feet. That's how I would interpret that. But, don't go by me. I'm misinterpreting all over the place.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I had an email conversation with the sender of that correspondence, and I explained to them that they are not expanding further in that direction, that they are trying to replace what is already there.
Thank you.
She seemed to be, from what I recall, satisfied by that explanation.
Okay. Following protocol, it came in and had to be read. Okay, then is there anyone else here who would like to speak with questions, concerns, or opposition to this application? Do you see any hands, Kate?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you very much. Then I'm going to close the public hearing and I'm going to open the public meeting. Mr. Courier, sir.
The fact that the fact that the driveway has been 32 feet for a long time and it hasn't posed any problems. If this request were being made in advance of repaving it, so, there wasn't like an after the fact permit, I wouldn't see it any different. I think it's a reasonable request. But also it's been there such a long time. To me, it fits with the situation of the house and where the gate is. So I'm good with it, and certainly open to hear what my colleagues say, but I'm okay with it as presented.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher, sir.
The fact that the driveway has existed since the late 80s, and it has posed no issues or problems in that neighborhood. I'm in full support of the application.
Thank you. Mr. Kanakis?
I agree as well. I'm in support of the application.
Thank you. Ms. Boras?
I'm also in support of the application as presented.
Thank you very much. And I too am in support of the application as presented. And is there someone who would like to make a motion? Mr. Boucher, thank you, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the area variance for Jeanette Dupont, owner, and Catherine E. La Liberty, applicant, 4 Bates Drive, sheet 48, lot 216, requesting a variance from Land Use Code section 190-192, section C, to exceed a maximum driveway width, 24 feet permitted, 32 feet existing, 32 feet requested, to replace an existing driveway in the RA zone, Ward 3, and this was tabled from the September 9th meeting of 2020. It's in the RA district. We find that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of property, given the special conditions of property, and the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. Again, the fact that the driveways existed in this form since the late 80s is a prominent factor, and that again, it doesn't pose any other issues for the surrounding properties. We find that it is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We find it will not adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. We find that it's not contrary to public interest. We find that substantial justice will be served. So again, I make a motion to approve the area variance.
And do I have a second on this motion? Thank you, Ms. Boras. Okay. Mr. Courier, how do you vote, sir?
Mr. Courier votes in favor of the motion.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote, sir?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Kanakis, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
Ms. Boras, how do you vote?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. And Mary Ellen McKay is also in favor. That is a 5-0 vote. Ms. Liberty, you have gotten a unanimous vote. As I tell people each time, the zoning board decisions can be appealed. There's a 30-day window of appeal. Anyone can appeal them. And so if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please refer them back to either Mr. Falk or Ms. Poirier at the planning department.
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. And I hope you can breathe now, honey.
I can.
Well,
Thank you.
thanks.
Oh,
Well, you have a good night.
thank you so much. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll move on to case number 2.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
probably just want to announce who's going to vote on this one.
Okay, let me. You guys are quicker than I am to get to it. Okay, in this case, Mr. Kanakis will be voting. Let me read this into the record. Russell A. Prevost, owner, 37 Lawndale Avenue, sheet 124, lot 163, requesting variance from Land Use Code section 190-16, table 16-3 to encroach 9 feet 6 inches into the 25-foot required front yard setback to construct an attached 15 by 20 foot garage. It's in the RA zone in Ward 6. Is Mr. Prevost here to present?
I am. Yes.
Okay. You have the floor, sir. Please state your name and address for the record.
Russell Prevost, 37 Lawndale Avenue, Nashua.
Thank you.
As you can see here, we have a very narrow lot, and the only place that we could put a driveway and a garage is in the front of the house. And so what we're asking for is, instead of 25 feet, it would be a 10-foot variance. We know that the driveway needs to be 1 foot narrower. because of the 24-foot. We feel that we're both senior citizens and we'd like to live in this house for the rest of our lives. We're also looking at upgrading the house itself. So we think in terms of the neighborhood, it would certainly not change anybody's house value. We wish we could do it some other way, but this is the only way that we could put a second garage in, you know, one car in each. And, you know, it's safety issues for us as we get older. And many of the houses in the neighborhood, even the house across the street's only like 10 foot from the street. So we don't think it's going to be anything that stands out in the neighborhood in a particularly bad way at all. So that's kind of our reasoning, and our, you know, that's the reason we're asking for the variance. We have no other place to put a garage except in that spot in front of the house. So that's pretty much sums up our thinking.
Well, thank you, sir. And now I'm going to open the floor to ask if any of the members of the board have any questions for the applicant. Mr. Boucher.
Mr. Prevost, I know you said that you had no other opportunities for this garage to be anywhere else. So from what I gather from your testimony is that you need a 2-car garage because you have 2 vehicles that you need to house. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. So the existing garage will still maintain a vehicle, and then you're looking to get another vehicle in a garage.
Yes, my partner will be moving in. So we are both senior citizens. So we would really like that garage. Yes.
Yeah. So I know you said there was no other way for a garage. Was there any other alternatives that you thought about that maybe was possible but wasn't convenient for you, or is this just really the only thing that would work for you?
The only other option we had was to tear down the garage that exists and then put the garage way in the backyard with a longer driveway. And
Twice as much.
it would have to be underground and under the house. We're putting an addition in. We're hopeful to put an addition in, and it would be an underneath the ground garage, which then we're trying to get all living on one floor as we age. And so this garage, the only other place would be around the corner and underneath. So that it would be far more expensive, far less convenient, and it would more plowing, more. It's a downhill piece, and we would have more stairs to get into the house.
Okay.
So that was the only other option that we.
And then, and again, I'm not designing a project. I'm just asking what other options you thought about. And then a tandem type of setup that wouldn't work for you, right?
You mean side by side?
No, one in front of the other. Like if you were to extend the garage longer.
But then you're always having to move your cars back and forth to it.
And then I know you got a lot of trees on your property there. It's kind of, this big tree there and stuff, but I was just trying to get a perspective. And tell me why, I know that there would be a variance, but any consideration to replacing the garage or a 2-car garage on the right side and trying to get a 2-car garage on the right?
We've only got 6 feet to the neighbor's property.
Okay, all right. So, all right. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Lionel, sir.
Hi, your audio, Mr. Provost, your audio dropped out a little bit when you were, I think, discussing the driveway width, and you said 24 feet. I didn't hear what came just before that.
Okay, we were notified, we didn't know this. So the drawing you have, the two driveways equal 24.5 feet. So all we're saying is that instead of a 15-foot driveway, the new one would only have 14 feet. And then we would be under the 24-foot combined footage for the width.
Okay, and thank you.
Mr. Falk, sir, I see your hand.
Yeah, Madam Chair, to help Mr. Lionel a little bit. I did talk to the owner about the driveway width of 24 feet, and he said he would meet that overall width. And also, another driveway, even if you wanted to do a tandem driveway on that other side, it would still require a variance because the side yard setback in the zoning district is 10 feet, and the existing garage is only like 6.5 feet away.
Thank you, Mr. Falk. Does any other member of the board have any questions for the applicant? Mr. Boucher.
So, Mr. Prevost, I just need to ask you another question, just trying to, in my mind, just trying to kind of figure this out. So you're asking for a garage, obviously, and there's a variance that's going to be needed for front yard setback. And again, I'm just going back, not designing a project, just trying to ask you, what your thoughts are. Right now, let's say we know that the right side is obviously in the setback, the current garage. Is there room, or what did you consider a two-car garage on the right, even though you would need a variance, just like you would need a variance for the front setback? Follow where I'm coming with that is that if you're here for a variance for a garage on the left side, if you would try to put a garage on the right, you would still need a variance, but the garage may not protrude to the front property as dramatically as it is right now. And I'm just curious whether or not that was a thought, or because of the design of the house, that's just really not possible.
I'd like to answer this. I'm Marge Dion, and I'm Russell's partner.
Can you please state your name and address for the record? I'm sorry.
That's fine. Marge Dion, 122 Boston Road, Chelmsford, soon to be 37 Lawndale, Nashua.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you. We looked at a number of options. The option that Mr. Boucher is suggesting, we looked at, we would have to take the breezeway down and go for variance on expanding the existing garage for 2 cars. There's a very large and old ornamental Japanese maple that has a beautiful canopy. We would have to take the tree out, and we would lose that, and it would really diminish the value, the visual aspect of the house, and we're trying to avoid that at all costs.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have any other questions for the applicant? Any member of the board? Okay, seeing none, I would like to ask if there is anybody here who would like to speak in favor of this application. You see anything, Kate?
No, Madam Chair, I see no hands raised and no messages in chat.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here who would like to speak with any comments, questions, or concerns or opposition to this application?
Madam Chair, I see none in the audience.
Okay, I have an email here, and I'm going to read it into the record, and I think the author may be present. Okay, good day. I respectfully oppose the variance at 37 Lawndale Avenue. I feel that the variance is unbecoming for the neighborhood and will set a precedent. The individual already has a garage, and although not mentioned, it appears that the existing garage will be turned into an addition. A garage could be located on the south side of the property and not infringe on the setback requirement. As the neighborhood ages, my concern is that some of these properties will become knockdowns and will be replaced with larger homes that will also infringe on the setback requirements. Regards, J. David Mersfelder at 14 Stevens Street, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03060. Are there any other comments? And because we read this letter into the record, Mr. Prevost, you are entitled to 5 minutes to respond to this concern.
It sounds like they think that we're turning the garage that currently into something different, which we are not. The garage that's there will continue to exist there. It's not going to change anything about that garage.
Okay.
And if I may speak,
Again, please state your name and address for the record. And Mr. Prevost, I should have probably had you again restate your name and address, even though I called you by name.
You want me to restate it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Russell Prevost, 37 Lawndale Ave, Nashua.
Thank you.
Marge Dion, 122 Boston Road, Chelmsford. One of the concerns that this person had was that as the properties age, they will become tear downs. What we're trying to do in this day and age, everybody has 2 cars. What we're trying to do is keep the property viable for us personally, and we plan to hold on to that until we can't exist living in that house anymore. So what we're trying to do is make it a viable house. And as we said, we would like to do an expansion in the back. We looked at other options of where that garage might be, but because we're aging, we want to keep the maintenance as low as possible. So we don't want to have a long driveway that slopes downward with ice that we would have to plow. That would become, a safety issue. So we'd like everything on one floor, which we're trying to do, which makes it a perfect cradle to grave house. And it would be very viable because one floor living is very in demand. And after we pass and that becomes up for sale, it would become a very nice property for somebody. So instead of diminishing the value of the house, we're actually upgrading it.
Thank you. Are there any other questions, comments, or concerns with this application? Kate?
Madam Chair, I see nothing.
Okay, thank you. Seeing and hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Lionel, sir.
You would call me first. I'm having difficulty finding support for this application. Having a second garage basically tacked onto the front of the house is not at all consistent with the neighborhood, and I'm not sure which neighborhoods it would be consistent with. My view is that this is not consistent with the zoning ordinances at all, and it would probably detract from property values because it would, and even of the existing property, having 2 separate garages on the house, one stuck on the front. I just can't find support for that.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
I'm having a hard time with this, and I have no opposition to a garage or adding a garage. I'm kind of in the same lane as Mr. Lionel. It to me, it doesn't seem to fit in or fit in with the neighborhood. I just don't feel comfortable with it. The variance for the front yard setback, if it was something else, again, I don't really have something, inherently against that. This is why I asked questions about the garage on the right. And again, this property, I'm sure Mr. Falk could, confirm that this property was there probably predating zoning, right? So we're not going to meet any of the side setbacks on this property, no matter what. So again, I'm not saying that this is what should have been done. I guess maybe a variance on the right side property and maybe a very small encroachment on the front would have made more sense, would have maybe fit in more for two-car garage. Unfortunately, we can't take into consideration the cost of projects. That's not something that we can do. I do understand, that they want to put addition out back, and that may not fit into, or to get a garage out back, it's going to be, because they would be too far out. So I understand all that. And again, it's not that I don't want Mr. Prevost to not have a garage. I just don't feel comfortable right now. I don't think that, again, it fits in to the neighborhood or fits in. So that's where I'm at right now. And then, again, aesthetics is always a personal thing. So, whether or not it would look like anything else, I'm sure that whoever they would have do the work, I'm sure that it would be done professionally and stuff. But again, to me, it's such a large encroachment on the front, and for a garage, I don't know. I think there's still opportunity for something different. But again, we can't consider the cost of projects, and because of that. So I think there's what I'm saying is I believe that there's another solution, another way to do this. And I don't think being on the left front of the house is the solution for me, or for what I think this neighborhood would take. So with that, I'm just going to say that right now, I don't really find too much support for this application.
Thank you. Mr. Courier.
I'm struggling with this application also, and I want to say I appreciate the questions that Mr. Boucher was asking earlier on about this, because I had the same questions, and appreciate, exploring the possibility of avoiding the proposed garage on front of the house. I mean, one of the things that hasn't been spoken about is the proposed new driveway would be 15.5 feet long to the property line, and that would accommodate some cars, but not many cars. And I think, while I have every confidence that the applicants, if this were approved, would make, a nice, nice construction, et cetera, and match the house. I think the garage on the front is out of character with the neighborhood, and I struggle with, while I appreciate wanting to keep a beautiful maple, and maple's my favorite species, if you think about perpetuity, you think a future homeowner would be happy to cut a maple down to avoid cutting, raking leaves. And so I do, like Mr. Boucher, feel there could be perhaps another way to come up with a two-car garage without having it on the front of the house and have such a short driveway. So I'm falling short at this point on support for the application.
Thank you, Mr. Courier. Mr. Kanakis.
I agree with what's been said. I'm just struggling to see a way that the proposed second garage can fit in. There may be another way to do this, but I can't get on board with the variance as proposed.
Thank you. Ms. Boras?
I'm also struggling with the application as presented. I don't feel it's consistent with the neighborhood, and I actually concur with my colleagues.
Thank you very much. And I too have a question mark over my head. It seems that it's the life of that Japanese red maple and keeping everything aesthetically correct, or putting the garage some where it is now and causing the consternation that's happening. This is a struggle for all of us tonight. Having said that, I'm going to look for a motion, and in this case, we are welcoming back into the night's activities Mr. Steve Lionel, because he did recuse himself from the first case, and Steve is a regular member, a permanent member, and he will be voting. And Mr. Kanakis will be the alternate voting on this case. Having said that, is there someone who would like to make a motion? Well, Mr. Lionel, welcome back.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Give me a second here. Where is it? I'd like to make a motion on behalf of owner Russell Prevost, address 37 Lawndale Avenue, sheet 124, lot 163, requesting variance from Land Use Code section 190-16, table 16-3, to encroach 9 foot 6 inches into the 25 foot required front yard setback to construct an attached 15 foot by 20 foot garage. This is in the RA zone Ward 6. The applicant has said that the driveway, and actually the driveway would have to be 14 feet. The board finds that the variance is not needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property. The board does not find that there are special conditions of the property that mean that the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible other than the variance. The board does not believe this is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. The board finds that it might adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. The board finds it is not necessarily contrary to public interest. Substantial justice would be served. However, not all of the points of law are met, and therefore I make a motion to deny the area variance.
And Mr. Courier, is that your hand up as a second?
Correct. That was, my hand was up for that.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
I vote in favor of denial.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
I vote in favor of the denial.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor of the denial.
Mr. Kanakis, how do you vote?
Vote in favor of the denial.
Okay, and myself, I am also going to join the board and vote in favor of the denial. Mr. Prevost, unfortunately, the board has determined that there are some points of law that have not been met, and so they cannot honestly and judiciously approve this variance. Any decision made by this board can be appealed. There's a 30-day window. Should you have any comments, concerns, questions, please refer back to Mr. Falk or to Ms. Courier. And thank you for your application.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to case number 3. And Ms. Boras will be voting on case number 3. Matthews Family Revocable Trust. Nathaniel C. Matthews, trustee, owner. Joshua Matthews applicant, 17 Old Coach Road, Sheet C, Lot 990. Requesting special exception from Land Use Code Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 3, to allow an accessory dwelling unit in-law in the finished basement. This is in the R9 zone in Ward 5. Is there someone here to present this case?
Yes, this is Joshua Matthews at 17 Old Coach Road, Nashua, New Hampshire. My wife Jennifer is behind me.
17 Old Coach Road, Nashua, New Hampshire.
Thank you both. And the floor, sir, you have 15 minutes. The floor is
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
welcome.
All right, so thank you. That's exactly the picture I wanted to show. So we have an existing permit. It's 20-2579. Basically, it finished off, and actually, I think you might go up 1 or 2 slides. I'm not sure which version of the picture. Keep going, one more. Wonderful. So the picture right in there was in that permit. It's the 20-2579, or sorry, 20-2579, where we pulled a permit, put a family room and a laundry area and a bathroom. Once we finished the space, we realized that it would be much more beneficial to add the kitchenette, which is the little grayed out section that you see above the word family room. So if you scroll down one more page, I'll kind of walk you through. This is exactly our house right now, the way it stands. I broke it into segments so you could understand it. The box above the number 1 is actually the deck. The box in front of the number 1 is a little landing off the driveway. The house is exactly the same as it was a month ago, and even with that permit to finish off the space. What we're doing is kind of redesigning that space now that it's finished to add in a kitchenette. So now if you scroll down just a little bit, what I did is try to show you exactly how the space is going to be configured. The only thing that we're really changing is that little section up in the top where it's 11 by 2 feet kitchenette. It will be designed with a dishwasher, a sink, stove, and a refrigerator, and very little counter space because it's only 11 feet long. From reading the auxiliary dwelling unit criteria that was sent over to me, we needed to ensure accessibility into our house, not add in any existing or not add any doors to the front of the house, and not change the curbs into the street, as well as space for parking and anything. It has to be met as well. So you can see in the diagram from the family room area, there's a big 3x3 opening that's right in the middle of the screen. And then you go through a little hallway and there's a 3-foot door. And then you go through another section, another 3-foot door, and you can walk up the stairs into the main portion of the house. What we wanted to do here is make it so my mother, Jen's mother-in-law, has a place to stay with us. We don't have to share kitchens. You know, that was a big plus when we did this, and that's kind of what we're looking to do here. So there's plenty of window space. I think it meets the neighborhood. You could drive by this house and not realize at all there's an in-law apartment, and it keeps that integrity of the neighborhood. I think that's it, Jen, unless you have anything.
No, just gives my mother-in-law the ability to stay in the house that, you know, she's raised her children in. She didn't want to leave, and we can, you know, keep her safe as she gets older.
And
Thank
that was
you.
it. Thank you.
And Mr. Matthews, I'm to understand, have you read all the 9 points on this special exception?
I did, yes.
And are you?
I did.
Then are you acceding to these? You are in concurrent with all 9 points?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Absolutely, as well as the 3 subsections of number 3.
thank you very much. And you would then also provide the city with a covenant, as you realize that's point number 5.
Yes,
Okay, I just wanted to put it in the record that you have acceded to that, you've assented to it.
yes.
Does anyone have any questions of Mr. Matthews from the board? Okay, I see no questions from the board. So I am going to ask if there's anyone here who would like to speak in support of this application.
Madam Chair, I see no hands raised and no messages in chat.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who has any questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application?
Madam Chair, I see none.
Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Boucher, sir.
I'm in full support of the application. I don't see any issues with it, and the applicant has attested to the accessory dwelling unit special regulations, so I'm good with it. I'm fine.
It's Ms. Boras.
I'm actually good with the application as well as presented, so I'm in favor.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Courier, sir.
I think it meets all the points of law. The applicant again has spoken to the 9 points for the accessory dwelling unit, so I have every confidence that, it would be used as intended, and I'm in support of it.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel.
I concur with my colleagues. I am in support of the application.
Thank you very much. And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I too am in support of the application, and I too concur with my colleagues. Is there someone here who would like to make a motion? Mr. Boucher.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the special exception for Matthews Family Irrevocable RE Trust, Nathaniel C. Matthews, trustee owner, Joshua Matthews, applicant, 17 Old Coach Road, Sheet C, Lot 990, requesting special exception from Land Use Code, Section 190-15, Table 15-1, Number 3, to allow an accessory dwelling unit in-law in finished basements in R9 Zone, Ward 5. We find that it is listed in the table of uses. We find it will not create undue traffic congestion or unduly impair pedestrian safety. We find it will not overload public water, drainage, sewer, or other municipal system. We find that the accessory dwelling unit special regulations are fulfilled by testimony of the applicant. We find that it will not impair the integrity, be out of character with the neighborhood, or be detrimental to health, morals, or welfare of the residents. So again, I make a motion to approve the special exception.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second to this motion? Thank you, Ms. Boras. Okay, and in this portion, before I call for the vote, in the discussion, Mr. Kanakis, I'd like to offer my apology. I should have asked you your comments during the public meeting. And if you have a comment you would like to make prior to our vote, please, during this time, make it.
No comment. I'm in support of the variance.
Thank you very much. And now I will ask my fellow board members. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote, sir?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Ms. Boras, how do you vote?
In favor.
Thank you. Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Thank you. And Mary Ellen McKay also votes in favor. Mr. and Mrs. Matthews, that is a 5-0 unanimous vote in support of your special exception. And
Thank you.
you now, as I've told people before, and we tell everyone every time we meet, anyone has a 30-day window they have a right to appeal. If you have questions, comments, concerns, please refer either to Mr. Falk or Ms. Poirier at the planning department. Good luck with your project, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And I can log off. I don't need to stay on the whole meeting. Is that correct?
Not unless you
log
want
off.
to be entertained for the rest of the night.
Okay. Thank you very much. I didn't want to awkwardly sit here, but thank you.
Or join the board too. We have openings.
That's
Thanks a
your
lot.
call.
Have a great night.
Thanks.
All right. Bye.
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 Right.
Okay, moving on. Mr. Kanakis, you will be voting on case number 4. Okay, Mark E. Lesher, owner, 26 Watson Street, sheet 58, lot 39, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-192C to exceed maximum driveway width 24 feet permitted, 24 feet existing, an extra 4 feet proposed on right side for a 28-foot wide curb cut, and an extra 6-foot triangular turnaround area not used for parking on left side proposed for a total width of 34 feet. This is in the RA zone and it is in Ward 2. Is there someone here to present this application?
Yes, Mark Lessier is here.
Thank you. Then, Mr. Lesher, you have 15 minutes to present your case. Please state your name and address for the record, sir.
Mark Lessier, 26 Watson Street, Nashua, New Hampshire.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Okay, I bought this house from my parents. They lived here for 60 years, and the existing driveway was actually around 28 feet anyway, except at the entrance. So all I'm trying to do is make it from 24 to 28 on the right side for more parking. And on the left side, there's an existing patio. This is really just an extension of the patio that I could probably put patio furniture, some chairs and a table. I can use it to, when they're plowing, to not plow in the street, put some snow on it if I have to, or as a turnaround. It's pretty basic. Most of this existed previously with my parents, except for the extension on the left side. I'm just adding a little to the patio. The right side was there previously, and unfortunately, my paver did not have the knowledge to go get a permit, so we got stopped in the middle of this, and if I had known, I wouldn't even have attempted it. But that is all I'm looking for. I'm all set.
Thank you very much. Does any member of the board have any questions for Mr. Lesher? Mr. Courier, sir.
Mr. Lesher could just repeat again. I didn't quite catch it. When his parents owned it, was that 4 feet what filled in all the way to the street?
The 4 feet went down till about 6 feet we had a shrub there.
Okay.
So it was widened as you went up the driveway about, 4 or 5 feet, and then it was the actual 28 feet. So
Okay.
now I'm just making it from 24 to 28 continuously down the whole driveway. So I'm adding 4 feet that is not there now, but was there previously.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Is there anyone else with any questions from the board?
Madam
Oh,
Chair.
Mr. Falk.
Just to clarify, that triangular shaped area by the front door, not all of that is in the front yard setback. There's only a small portion of that that's in the setback. Kate, if you can bring up that screen again. So not all of that, it's all paved, but not all of that's in the setback. You can see that dashed line I drew. That's where the front setback is. So part of that big shrub area is going to be paved, but that's not. He can do that by right. That's not in the front yard setback.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Falk.
You're welcome.
Okay. Is there anyone else here who would like to speak in favor of this application? Okay, is there anyone here? Okay, do you see any hands? I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I see none.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who has any questions, concerns, or would like to speak in opposition to this application?
Madam Chair, I see none.
Thank you very much. Okay, then I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Courier, sir.
Well, I appreciate knowing the history of that, I guess, expanded driveway with that 4 feet on the right. And, so it does seem like it's been there a while, and that kind of eases my mind a bit, although I'm not, completely comfortable with the large, the extended width. Then again, the garage is on the right, so everything's in one spot on the right of the house. So I guess a bit on the fence, but I'm looking, certainly could be swayed by my colleagues' comments on this.
Okay. And Mr. Kanakis.
I agree with Mr. Courier. I'm a little close on this, but I'm leaning in favor of it. I don't see this as a major deviation, and I think it fits for the neighborhood that is going in. So I'm leaning in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel.
What that 4-foot strip right now is sort of gravel, rock, rather unsightly. I don't really have a problem with just paving that 4-foot strip, and the triangle part doesn't bother me at all.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
I support the application. Again, like Mr. Lionel, again, it's being used in whatever fashion, and I think paving it will only make it look better. And I think, the 28 feet's been there for a good long time. So I don't think it's anything that I'm not worried about this. So again, I think it'll fit in. I'm good with it.
Thank you. Ms. Boras.
I'm also in favor.
Thank you very much. And I too am in favor. Is there somebody here who would like to make a motion? Mr. Boucher.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the area variance for Mark E. Leshier, owner of 26 Washington Street, sheet 58, lot 39, requesting a variance from Land Use Code, section 190-192, section C, to exceed maximum driveway width 24 feet permitted, 24 feet existing, an extra 4 feet proposed on the right side for a 28-foot wide curb cut, and an extra 6-foot triangle turnaround area not used for parking on left side, proposed for a total width of 34 feet. This is not correct, is it? What am I missing something here?
No, we're doing.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I'm okay now. The 34-foot chart threw me off a little bit, and I remember it's the triangle part.
Right.
All right. For a total width of 34 feet, it's the RA zone, Ward 2. I apologize again. It's the RA zone. The variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property, and the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the air variance. Again, we spoke about the fact that the driveway has been existing, main part of the driveway at 28 feet for many, many, many years. It is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We find that it will not adversely affect the property values of surrounding parcels. We find it's not contrary to public interest and substantial justice would be served. So can I make a motion to approve the area variance?
And do I have thank you, Mr. Lionel. Okay. Mr. Courier, how do you vote, sir?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Kanakis.
I vote in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel.
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor. That is 5-0. Mr. Lesher, your variance has been granted by the board. And please understand that anyone may appeal a decision made by this board. They have up to 30 days to do so. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please refer back to either Mr. Falk or Ms. Poirier. And on that note, congratulations, sir, on your project.
Thank you very much.
You're quite welcome. You have a good evening.
Same to you.
Thank you. Case number 5. Let me just make sure I have. Yep. Just want to make sure I was doing the right thing. I too was a little confused, Mr. Boucher. You do not corner the market on this one. So, anyway, and Ms. Boraz will be voting on this case. Richard W. and Melissa, is it Zibel or Zibel? Owners. Excuse me?
Zibel. Yeah,
Zibel.
Zibel's fine. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Thank you. Richard W. and Melissa Zibel, owners, 4 Kenmare Road, Sheet B, Lot 688, requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-31 to encroach 4 feet into the 6-foot required right side yard setback to construct a 10 by 12 foot shed. This is in the R9 zone in Ward 8. And Mr. Zibel, I know you're here to present your application. If you would please state your name and address for the record. You have 15 minutes and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Rich Zibel, 4 Kenmare Road, Nashua. And what I'm looking to do is install a 10 by 12 shed within the fenced area of my backyard. I tried every option possible, no matter where I want to put a shed so I don't block the whole yard off. I have to be along one of the property lines. This one here, yeah, I want to go 2 feet off that side property line. In the front fence, I'm going to go 2 feet off of that also. So I'll be quite a ways off the front of the street, and then I'll be 4 feet into the 6-foot buffer zone, or whatever you want to call it, setback. And it's a 10 by 12 reed ferry shed, and the height's 11 feet. And I've talked to my neighbors. There's no opposition from my neighbors. And I think that's it.
Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Does any member of the board have any questions for Mr. Zibel? Seeing none, I will ask if there's anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this application.
Madam Chair, I see none.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone here who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application?
Madam Chair, I see none.
Thank you. In that instance, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Ms. Boras.
I'm actually in favor of the application as submitted.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Lionel.
I support the application.
Thank you. Mr. Courier.
I support the application. I think it meets the points of law, and I just to add a little bit more, the board has seen quite a few requests. My guess is the single most requests the board gets are sheds within 6 feet of a property line, just because of the reason Mr. Zibel cites, which is people want to, use as much backyard as they can. I think that the 2 feet gives enough room for him or future homeowners to maintain the shed or paint it or whatever you have to do as time goes by. Also, this is kind of a tight neighborhood, and you know, I drive around and I see a lot of other sheds I suspect are within 6 feet of the property line. I'm not trying to point any property out in particular, but I appreciate Mr. Zeibel for doing the right thing and, you know, seeking a permit. And again, I'm in support of it because I think it's worthy to allow him to maximize his backyard space. And I would agree. I think if I own the property, I'd want to put it in the exact same spot, because then I got a backyard I can use and have the shed where he proposes. So I'm good with it.
Thank you very much. Mr. Boucher.
I also support the application.
Thank you. Mr. Kanakis.
I also support the application.
Thank you. And I also support the application. So therefore, I would like to see if someone would like to make a motion. Mr. Boucher.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the area variance for Richard W. and Melissa Zeibel, owners of 4 Kenmare Road, Sheet B, Lot 688, requesting a variance in Land Use Code Section 190-31 to encroach 4 feet into the 6-foot required right side yard setback to construct a 10 by 12 shed, seen in the R9 zone, Ward 8. We find that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property and the benefits sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. We find that it is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We find that it will not adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. We find that it's not contrary to public interest, and we find that substantial justice would be served. So again, I make a motion to approve the area variance.
Thank you. Do we have a second on this motion? Mr. Courier, thank you. Okay, Ms. Boras, how do you vote?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Thank you. And Mary Ellen McKay also votes in favor. Mr. Zeibel, excuse me. You have been granted your variance for your project. As I've explained, anyone can appeal a decision made by this board. They have up to 30 days to do so. And if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please refer back to either Mr. Falk or Ms. Poirier. And on that note, we'll bid you adieu for the evening and thank you for your application.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. And with the indulgence of the board, I would like to take a 2-minute recess. I need to print out one more form for the last case, and I can't read it into the record without the form. So how about we come back at 10 of? Thank you.
Is that Bentley?
Yes, it is Bentley. He decided to join.
My cat decided to pick John over me tonight, so no dice.
I'm sorry, Bentley. I have to do the meeting. Okay. I am now going to, I think, bring us back. Do we have all of us here? No, I'm missing you. Up. There's Mr. Kanaka sliding into home plate. Ms. Boras, I know she's here somewhere. Okay, we will come back and we will go back to, we are at case number 6. Alberto Hernandez Gutierrez. And God forgive me, please forgive me if I've crucified that name. Owner, 35 Hode Street, sheet 87, lot 296. Requesting variance from Land Use Code Section 190-192C to exceed maximum driveway width 24 feet permitted, 24 feet existing, 30 feet requested. This is in the RB zone in Ward 4. Mr. Kanakis will be voting on this case. And Mr. Gutierrez, did I say that correctly? Please state your name and address for the record, and you will have 15 minutes, sir, to present your case.
Good evening. This is Alberto Hernandez from 35 Hood Street, Nashville, New Hampshire. I'm overlaying the existing driveway that I have that is 24 feet, and I'm just gonna overlay that existing because it's deteriorated with time. So that's what I need to pave, not to hardtop. Besides that, I'm not gonna go exceed my 24 feet wide.
You want to, did you say you're not going to, you are going to go 24, you're going the 30 foot?
No, I'm just gonna go do the 24, what is already existing there. I'm just gonna do overlay on that 24 that you have on screen. That's what I'm gonna go with the hard tops. Yes, because the driveway that I have now has been just with time, it just deteriorated, and I'm just planning to do this project so my driveway will be new again.
I understand that completely. Mr. Falk, I've got a question for you.
Okay.
If he has just indicated that he's only going to overlay the footprint that exists, which is within code at 24 feet, and he's no longer doing 30 feet, does he need a variance?
Well, the maximum you can do is 24 feet. So if he's just having a 24-foot wide driveway, he can certainly do that without a variance. I'm a little unsure as myself. The drawing we have, one shows 24 and one shows 30. I was under the impression that he was going to pave that extra 6-foot area to make the whole thing 30.
No.
Like,
see, he's indicating that this is not what he's going to do. That's why I asked the question.
I mean, if that area in the front is just going to be gravel or crushed stone, if it's used for parking or to place a vehicle, even though it's not paved, we would still probably consider it as parking in a front yard setback. I seen that photo there. There's a car parked there. The Department of Public Works, I hate to speak for them, but I believe they would want that area paved if someone is driving from the paved public street to a parking area. They would want that end to be paved at least until the property line. So I'm a little bit unsure of what Alberto was requesting. If he wants to keep that gravel, I think it still needs the variance if a car's gonna be parked there, because it would still be used as a driveway.
Okay, Mr. Hernandez, can you clarify that for the board, please? Are you going to keep that parking area?
Well, I'm an owner for this property in 2008. When I bought this house, that was shown on the picture that the space there, it was there before. So the only thing I did is put some stone on it that was already there, and I did park a car there, but the variance, I'm not gonna pave on to exceed my 30 feet. I'm just gonna overlay what is the 24.
So does that mean you are going to continue to keep gravel in that area and utilize it as a parking?
Yes.
Okay, then that would require a variance.
Okay.
And there's somebody I see whose hand is raised, but you cannot speak yet. Only the applicant can speak. There will be time for you to speak, but unfortunately, this is not the correct time frame. So we're going to follow protocol, but I will respond to your or ask for your comment. Okay. I'm just going to open this up to the board now for any of their comments or questions. Thank you, Mr. Falk, by the way.
Welcome.
Does any member of the board have any questions for Mr. Hernandez? Mr. Courier.
I was wondering, I drove around a bit. He had mentioned that there were other homes that had wider driveways than 24 feet, or were there any, could he let me know which homes or general area that those places are? Maybe I just missed it.
On this street, there's no, they don't have the wide as I do, that extra parking, because I put gravel. It was gravel there because people on this street park on their lawn, on top of their lawn, because all this street they have the 24 feet driveway, but there's people that park on top of their lawn, and there's no gravel, and there's a messy lawn. So to avoid and to keep my house, looking good, I've been keeping it up, and now that's why I want to overlay the existing of my driveway. But on this street, there's no the spots bigger than that, but that's why they park on their lawn.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions of Mr. Hernandez? Seeing none, I'm going to ask if anyone would like to speak in favor of this application.
Madam Chair, I see no messages in chat. I do see a hand raised. I'm not sure if that is in favor or opposition.
She's in favor. Okay, so can we or she unmute yourself so we can get your name and address for the record and state your comments, please.
Tiffany Castellucci Trant and Brian Trant, 419 South Pabusick Lake Road, Merrimack, New Hampshire. We are the owners of CTC Construction Corp. Asphalt Paving. Al had hired us to come and do an overlay on his driveway. There's nothing being ripped up. There's nothing being added. He just simply wants a new layer of asphalt on top of what's existing there. The problem we ran into when we went to file for the permit was the planning department stated we needed to have Al get a variance because he has block next to the driveway, which exceeded the 24-foot rule for the city of Nashua. Okay, so it's.
I'm sorry, but it's when he said he has.
Sir,
My name's
your name
Brian.
and address.
My name's Brian Trant, CTC Construction. He actually, when he says he has stone there, he doesn't mean physical stone. He has pavers. Like he put it, they're like patio block, like decorative aesthetic. So it's a solid surface to park on. It's not a permanent surface and it's not asphalt. He just covered the stone that was there just so he actually wasn't parking in the mud. So just so, yeah, I mean, I heard one of the other gentlemen say that it would have to be paved into the marker, like to the town's limits, but it's actually it already is a solid surface. That they're concrete paver stones that he installed. It actually looks really nice. And if we're just overlaying the original footprint that was already there, I figured it was kind of cut and dry. That's why we were kind of trying to help him out through the process. It was our first variance as well. So
Your baptism of fire, so to speak.
that's it. I just wanted to clarify the stone. Like, I didn't want anyone to think it was actual gravel, like loose rock or anything near the edge of the road. He actually did a really nice job putting down like paver stones, and it looks really good. So I just wanted to add that.
Well, thank you for the clarification, because it does help. It, I'll reserve, well, Mr. Falk brings up a question. So because it's pavers, it still qualifies as needing could be 30 foot all the way out in that general area. So we're good to proceed, correct?
Yes, I think that's why we wound up here, because when we did the permit, we did the, oh, I'm sorry, you weren't talking to me,
No.
were you? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Falk.
That's fine. I mean, if a car is being parked on it and it's being used as a driveway or a place to park a vehicle, you know, whether it's asphalt or cement or paving stones that are all pushed together, you know, we're going to still call it part of a driveway. There's different surfaces that can be used. I mean, the standard ones that everybody sees are asphalt and cement. You know, pavers can certainly be used. But you know, we're just thinking that whole front area, the 30 feet, is what the variance is for. If he wants to do 24-foot wide overlay, I mean, he can certainly do that by right, just that section. He doesn't need to come here for that. But if he's using that other paver area as parking, or a car's parked there, you know, we have to call it what it is. We would call it a place to park a vehicle, so we would, you know, call it a driveway, even though
Okay.
it's not really long, deep, I should say.
Thank you. And now we have an email that I'm also going to read into the record, unless there's somebody else physically present who would like to present in favor of this application. I would listen to them first.
Madam Chair, I see none.
Okay, thank you. Then I'm going to read this email into the record. To whom it may concern, we are abutting neighbors of the applicant at 31 Hode Street. Relative to the application for expansion of the driveway from 24 feet to 30 feet, we note that this is an after-the-fact request. Current owner and previous owner have been using the wider footprint for many years, regularly parking up to 6 vehicles in the driveway. The current owner has made several property improvements and maintains his home and yard. We have spoken with him about our concerns and winter snow removal, and he has indicated his willingness to exercise care not to damage our home's vinyl siding during storm cleanup. We have no objections to the board granting the variance for the driveway as constructed. Sincerely, Richard Ware, Ann Thoralt, 31 Hode Street, Nashua, New Hampshire, 03060. I just needed to read that into the record. Is there anyone here with any questions, concerns, or objections to this application?
Madam Chair, I see none.
Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Kanakis, sir.
I'm in support of the variance. We have the testimony from the neighbor that the previous owner widened it. It wasn't the applicant. Seems like he just wants to overlay the current footprint, even though technically the pavers do count as a driveway. I don't have an issue with the application.
Thank you very much. Mr. Boucher.
In favor of the application. I'm familiar with this neighborhood because I had worked in that area for a good length of time, and I know that area existed for a while. I also know that, as the applicant spoke, that because of the width of the lots and the tightness of the front, that there are some folks that are parking on lawn as stated, and some people have taken down their chain link fence to park between the poles, and there's just what it is over there. So I appreciate the applicant coming in, and again, he's not really asking to add anything. It's just gonna replace pave over the asphalt that's there, but because of this stone area that has existed for many years. So again, I'm in favor of the application.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel.
I'm in favor of the application, but I was a little bit confused because the paperwork that I received looked like it was for a use variance, not an area variance. I understand what the applicant is doing, but the forms were a bit weird.
Oh, mine is area variance. Huh, that's interesting. Okay, Mr. Courier.
I'm in support of the application. What I have here on the voting sheets is an area variance, so I think we're good on that. I think the process that's happened is the correct process. I mean, the pavers do count as driveway width. Interestingly, if anybody like me were to pull up this 35 Hood Street on Google Maps, you see a car parked where the pavers are. So, I mean, the pavers, I think, are a legitimate driveway, and thus the variance. And I agree with the testimony by the applicant and also Mr. Boucher. I appreciate hearing that there are a lot of cars in this neighborhood, and that I also appreciate the testimony of the neighbor that indicated that it's really been 3-car wide for a long time, and that's an addition. And so I'm in support of it as presented.
Thank you. Ms. Boras.
I'm also in support as presented, and I concur with my colleagues.
Thank you very much. And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I'm also in support. And I recognize that people do park on the lawns because they park up there to avoid tickets for parking on the street, which makes logical common sense. I get it. But I also understand the aesthetics and wanting to keep your yard looking really nice. So that's a bonus. That's a good. Okay. Is there anyone here who would like to make a motion? Mr. Lionel.
I'd like to make a motion on behalf of Alberto Hernandez Gutierrez, address 35 Hood Street, sheet 87, lot 296, requesting variance from Land Use Code section 190-192, section C, to exceed maximum driveway width 24 feet permitted, 24 feet existing, 30 feet requested. This is in the RB zone Ward 4. The board finds that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property. Given the special conditions of the property, this additional width has already been used for parking with stone and pavers, and the benefit sought by the applicant cannot be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. The board believes this is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance, that it will not adversely affect the property values of surrounding parcels, that it is not contrary to public interest, and that substantial justice will be served. So I make a motion to approve this area variance.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Boucher. Okay. Mr. Kanakis, sir, how do you vote?
I vote in favor of the variance.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor of the variance.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor of the variance.
Thank you. Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes in favor of the variance.
Thank you, sir. And Mary Ellen McKay also votes in favor of the variance. Mr. Hernandez, congratulations. You have been granted your variance. You may go forward with your project. As I've explained, anyone has the right to challenge a decision made by this board. They have 30 days to do so. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please refer back to Mr. Falk or Ms. Poirier. Other than that, good luck with your project, and thank you for bringing it to our attention this evening.
Well, thank you for taking your time with my case, and thank you for everything. And have a good night. Thank you. I'm very happy to go forward with my project.
Well, thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
Case number 7. Ms. Borat will be voting on this case. Ms. Boyer.
Madam Chair, this is more of a technical comment, but there is a phone caller joining us tonight. Last 4 digits, 6461. When they joined, they were muted. It was right in the middle of your address. So I do not have the power to unmute them. All I can do is request that they unmute, and I do not know if they can do that on a telephone call. So what they may have to do is hang up the call and redial if they want to speak. I know that they are here for this case.
Okay, so what you're saying is the phone caller at 6461, if she can't or he can't unmute their call, then they should call back because they want to speak on the case that's going to be presented.
Correct. If they want to speak, I did answer a few questions for her what the case was about before the meeting. If they want to speak, though, they probably need to call back.
Okay. Then I think between the two of us, we've given the caller on the phone with the last 4 digits, 6461, ample opportunity. Should you want to speak on this case, please hang up, call back in so that you are unmuted. Or if you have a way to unmute yourself, please unmute so you may speak should you desire to. Okay, I'm going to begin our final case of the evening. Kyle S. and Brittany M. Oh dear. Cavanaro. I'm going to leave the G silent and hope I did it right.
It's spot on.
Thanks. 83 Dublin Avenue, sheet 53B, lot 4, requesting variance from Land Use Code section 190-44 to exceed maximum fence height 6 feet permitted, 8 feet requested within wooded area in rear of the house. This is in the R9 zone in Ward 1. And I see Kyle and Brittany Cavanero. If you would please state your names and addresses for the record.
I have Brittany Cavanero at 83 Dublin Ave. This is my husband, Kyle.
Kyle Cavanero, 83 Dublin Ave.
And you may proceed. You have 15 minutes to present your case to the board. The floor is yours.
Thank you. So we're looking to install an 8-foot fence in the back of our yard. It's a wooded area. We have a unique kind of property where this fence would be probably about 175, no more, closer to any actual street. This area is heavily wooded. It is sloped as well, so it's pretty hilly. The fence is not really going to be visible from the actual street, and this fence is to provide a safe enclosure for our 2 huskies for all times of year. So even if there's winter with the snow, and then we also have a lot of wildlife that comes through because it's so wooded. So we've seen a number of deer that come through. So it's also to keep the wildlife out. So this is why we're requesting the 8-foot fence to be able to, provide this enclosure for our pets going forward.
Okay. Is that all either of you have to say, or do you think that supports the case you're presenting at this point? Yes.
Good.
Okay, you're good. Okay, thank you. Does anyone on the board have any questions? I don't see any. Okay. Is there anyone here who would like to speak in favor of this application? Are you seeing anything, Kate?
No, Madam Chair, I do see that the abutter has logged off and on again. They are unmuted if they wish to speak for or against this application.
Okay. And since I've asked for in support and I'm not hearing anything.
I just had, this is Margaret Robes. I just had one question as to exactly where the fence was going to go. That's all. Is it going to go like along our lot line or just where? Just so out of curiosity.
Margaret, could you state your full name and address, please, for the record?
Margaret Robes. Address is 39 Meredith Drive in Nashua, 03063. And my backyard abuts their yard.
Okay, fine. A little bit sidestepping, but Mr. or Mrs. Cavanero, if you would like to answer that question, please.
Sure. Yeah, so the fence is not, it's going to actually be within like a 30-foot rear setback. So it's not going to be on the property line. And we actually put up pink like ribbon. So that's kind of where, if she did want an indication of where that's going to be, there's been pink ribbon set up since we submitted the variance.
Okay.
Mr. Falk, did you have anything you want to add to that? Please, your technical knowledge is probably needed here.
Yes, Madam Chair. There's actually no setback for fences, so they could actually put it right at their property line if they so desire, spend more money on that fence, but there's no setback on it.
Okay. And Mrs. Robes, does that help you?
I guess. The original fence that went to their property has rotted through the years so that it's almost nothing there, just a couple posts and that's it. So I was just curious if it's along our side or if it's around other parts. That's all.
It'll be around other, it actually won't be directly in front of her property line. But yeah, I know that it did, the fence that was there was like a two-post
farm fence.
That's pretty rotted, but we were able to find the property markers and we marked them out a little bit better too.
Oh, super. That's great. Okay.
Thank you. So your abutter seems to be okay with that. So
yeah.
Oh, there we go. So thank you very much, Mrs. Robes. Is there anyone here who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application?
Madam Chair, I see none.
Then seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Courier, your comment, sir.
I'm in support of the application. I mean, an 8-foot fence certainly is 2 feet more than the 6 foot, but this, as the applicant says, is a very unique property. I didn't realize how unique it was until you go to site walk it and you really can't see it from anywhere. You know, I don't know if the neighbors are even going to be able to see the fence, you know, because it's inboard, you might say, of the property line. And so I feel it, you know, the uniqueness of the property, you know, warrants the applicants, the owners would like an 8-foot fence for their privacy, and I don't think it impacts any abutters, so I'm good with it.
Thank you. Ms. Boras.
I'm in support of the application. I concur with my colleague as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Boucher.
I also support the application. I agree with Mr. with Mr. Currier. I think that 8-foot fence on this property won't impede anybody's other ability on another piece of property. It won't impede any on them at all. So again, I'm in support of the application.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel.
I'm in support of the application.
Thank you. Mr. Kanakis.
I'm in support of the application.
Thank you. And Mary Ellen McKay, I'm in support, and I understand the 8-foot wanting to keep the critters out and the puppies safe. Makes sense to me. Okay, do we have a motion on this application? Mr. Boucher.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the area variance for Kyle S. and Brittany M. Cavanero, owners of 83 Dublin Ave, sheet 53B, lot 4, requesting a variance from Land Use Code section 190-44 to exceed a maximum fence height 6 feet permitted, 8 feet requested within wooded area and rear of house. See the RB zone, Ward 1. We find that the variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property given the special conditions of the property. Again, we spoke the fact that it's a heavily wooded lot, a large lot, and surrounded by wooded lots also. We find that the benefit sought by the applicant not be achieved by some other method reasonably feasible for the applicant to pursue other than the variance. We find that it is within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. We find that it will not adversely affect property values of surrounding parcels. We find that it's not contrary to public interest. We find that substantial justice will be served. So again, I make a motion to approve the area variance.
Thank you, Mr. Boucher. Do we have a second? Ms. Boras, thank you. Okay, Mr. Currier, how do you vote, sir?
Mr. Currier votes in favor of the application.
Thank you. Ms. Boras, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher.
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel.
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Thank you. And Mary Ellen McKay also votes in favor. Mr. and Mrs. Cavanero, that is 5-0. You have a unanimous support for your variance for your fence. As I've stated all night, anyone has the opportunity to challenge a decision made by this board and appeal it, and they have 30 days in which to do so. Should you have any questions, comments, concerns, please refer to Mr. Falk or Ms. Poirier. Other than that, good luck with the fence. Good luck keeping the puppies safe. And thanks for bringing your project forward. And yeah, until I saw the aerial view of your property, wow, that is a huge amount of fence. I mean, wood. Jeez.
I know.
I get it.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Carter, we'll move forward with the rest of our evening. There was no agenda for the next meeting, correct?
That's correct, because we had an extra week in the schedule. Our next meeting isn't actually until October 13th. So we don't advertise that case and that meeting until September 29th. So I am working on the agenda right now, and we do have a fairly full agenda, about 9 cases. So
Let me check that.
I think it's 9.
Well,
I'm still finalizing writing it up.
9.
I believe there's 9.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this way the board has, some prior knowledge that it may not be as quick as this evening.
As soon as I have it written up and checked out, I'll email it to you all. So.
Thank you. We do have minutes here from September 9th meeting. Has everyone had a chance to go through them, and is there any edits that need to be made to the minutes? If there's none, I will entertain a motion on our minutes. Mr. Boucher.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the September 9th, 2020 Board of Adjustment, Zoning Board of Adjustment meeting.
Okay, I'm gonna, then, yep, Nick, you would have been the person to vote on this next anyway. So Nick, I take your second. And because we keep alternating back and forth, that's what I've been trying to do, keep it even. Okay, then, let's see, Mr. Kanakis, how do you vote?
I vote in favor.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
I vote, I vote in favor.
Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Lionel, and how do you vote?
Mr. Lionel votes in favor.
Thank you, and I vote in favor. That's 5-0. The minutes have been accepted from September 9th. Therefore, I think I have 828, 829? Oh, Mr. Falk.
Madam Chair, just a real quick announcement. Just to let you know that we have hired a new planning director. His name is Matt Sullivan. He will be starting next Monday, and we're very excited to have him on board. He's the former planning director in Wolfboro, New Hampshire. And we've had a few Zoom meetings with him so far, and we're really looking forward to having him on staff. I think he's going to want to log in on the next meeting just to introduce himself and just so you can see what he looks like. And anyway, just we're happy to have him on board and looking forward to his expertise.
Well,
Tall,
thank you.
dark, and glasses. Tall, dark, and glasses. He's a pretty good crack shot from what we've seen of him.
Oh, good. Favorable opinion is always wonderfully well done. All righty then. It is just about 8:30, and I will make a motion to adjourn. Seconded by Mr. Boucher, Mr. Lionel, and Mr. Courier. Okay. On favor, Mr. Lionel, how do you vote?
Oh, I vote in favor.
Yeah, Mr. Boucher.
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Courier.
I vote in favor. Mr. Courier votes in favor.
Ms. Boras.
Ms. Morris is in favor.
And I too am in favor, and I think for the record, Mr. Kanakis would also be in favor. I don't think he wants to stay for the evening. I'd like to say thank you, good night, and have a good 3 weeks, folks.